You may know that on the last Tuesday of each month, Highland Church hosts early in the morning a meeting of the Tri-Cities Domestic Violence Task Force. Mike and I attended this past Tuesday, as did Julie Pond. And we heard this past Tuesday of a homicide memorial candlelight vigil that is to take place in Hopewell. Homicide memorial candlelight vigil. It sounds strange, doesn't it? It sounds somewhat jarring, especially for this time of the year. But the idea is this, that those in the Tri-Cities and beyond, Richmond, Prince George, Powhatan, those who have lost a loved one through homicide in the past year or even beyond, are invited for a service of remembrance across from the courthouse in Hopewell on December the 13th. So there will be the lighting of the tree, some words of remembrance and tribute, and a reception for those who share this common loss. Homicide Memorial Vigil at Christmas. The words don't even seem to fit together in a sentence. They have nothing to do with one another. They're painful to speak. But look closely at the picture these words create, and you see something more profound than pain. You see comfort. You see the comfort that comes only from those who are able to bind together and to say to one another, I know. And to say only this in the midst of our suffering is enough. To have at least one who draws near and understanding, who makes room for our grief and for our healing, is enough. Well, in this season, we embrace the good news that this is what we have. We have this, for it is none other than God who draws near to us, who places himself firmly in our midst by taking our flesh and blood and saying, I am here, where you can see me, where you can touch me, as near to you and as real to you as this bread and this cup. In our midst, because the Word becomes flesh, God himself is able to say to us, in all circumstances, I know. Because the Word becomes flesh, it is God who is able to make room for our grief and to make room for our healing. And we are comforted. I understand that much of the power that comes from support groups such as AA and Al-Anon and the like, that much of the power is found in the comfort and the healing discovered as we realize, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who knows this shame, my weakness, and my guilt. There are others like me able to say to me, I know. And there are others able to say to me, you're not alone. Or who knew that the God of all heaven and earth is the same God who so intimately identifies with you and me in our shame and in our guilt, in our loss and in our suffering? Who knew that this would be the means by which God would choose to comfort his people? Perhaps you have heard of, and perhaps you may have even participated in something that is referred to or called a Blue Christmas service. A Blue Christmas service. Such a service claims to help hurting people cope with the holidays. And there are churches all over that hold these services. And in holding these services and the offering of word and music and prayer, they witness to the reality that this is not the most wonderful time of the year for many. Rather, it is a time when many of us feel in the most piercing of ways the loss of those with whom we have decorated the house or unwrapped presents or shared meals with for so long. This is a time in which many of us hurt in ways that we may not have anticipated. A time when we would give anything simply to know some comfort. So is there any to be found? Well, perhaps there is comfort in finding that this question has always been the question of the people of God. This is no more true than during the exile. Remember that in 586 BC, King Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian armies drove the people of Israel from the land that God had given them, drove them into exile. For by the waters of Babylon, there we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. On the willows there we hung up our harps, and for there our captors required of us songs, and our tormentors mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? And how shall we find comfort? Anyone with good sense can see all is lost. Driven from our homeland in a place not our own, no longer a people of our own, God is obviously not a God of His Word. He had promised us this land for all eternity. And look now. Lost, alone, no future, no comfort. Now perhaps you and I are not there now, but it may be that we are closer to there than we'd like to be. Because exile is a part of our faith story no matter where or when we live. Singing our song in a foreign land, well, yes, things do look differently now from what we remember. We journey through memory, we journey through nostalgia, especially at this time of year. And as we do so, we discover more and more that this does not look like the warm and familiar place that we once knew. Our memory unveils to us what? Christmas carolers and white Christmases and perfect trees and smiling flannel pajamaed children unwrapping everything they ever wanted, all while the turkey bakes to a golden brown just before we head over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house. God bless us, everyone. Now, believe me, I'm not trying to be disrespectful of such memories, because I can dwell in the comforting land of nostalgia as well as anyone here. Getting misty-eyed as I look through the photo albums and watch the home movies and touch again hugs and smiles and the excitement of my daughters on Christmas morning. Remembering as well my own childhood and trying to touch that again as I, along with you, watch for the millionth time what? Rudolph, or Charlie Brown, or the Grinch, or any of the zillion versions of Dickens' A Christmas Carol. She thinks I'm cute. That's from Rudolph. I want to be a dentist. And I can look around along with you and say the land in which I now dwell, well, it doesn't look like that land anymore. In so many ways, we've gone from a land of bright-eyed wonder and delight to a land in which we ask, can we get this season over with and get back to life as normal? How shall we sing the Lord's song in this land, in a land so different from the land we remember, the land we loved and cherished, and from which we never wished to move? Is there a word this morning of comfort for us? That's what we're looking for, isn't it? There are many things that we may want from a service of worship, but one of the things always is comfort, always looking for comfort. In a world in which we often feel as if we're living in exile, strangers in a foreign land, in a world that changes too quickly for us to keep up, in a world of many songs different from our songs of faith. We hope to be comforted here, and why not? Hoping to find comfort in the word we share, in these rituals by which we have been shaped, in the songs we sing, in the word we proclaim. And we hope for comfort as we gather at table, as we share in some comfort food. And it shouldn't be that hard for us, should it? Because just how many tables do we gather at this season? We know the routine. And somehow it never gets old. We need to eat, and we gather at Sunday school, and men and women, and office parties, and so forth. And we take delight in eating, and we never wish to be too far from food. But the truth is, more than we know, there's more than food and more than nutrition that's being shared when we gather at table. There's conversation, there's renewal of relationship, there's establishing of relationship, there's healing, some rest. Because there is more than food and nutrition being shared when we gather at table. And because of it, we discover that the most humble and unassuming of meals may be to us more profound and moving than a gourmet feast held in the most opulent of houses. In fact, we may even discover the greatest of comfort, the most profound of comfort, indeed, the very comfort for which we have been looking, we share simply in this bread and cup. It may be in this bread and cup we taste that comfort that we wanted. Because here at this table, God draws as close to you and to me as He can. And this table becomes for us something much like Bethlehem, and we receive the good news that we may experience Bethlehem, the presence of God, even on our way to Bethlehem. My body given for you, my blood shed for you. Take, eat, drink. The Word has become flesh and dwells in your midst. Comforted. Your suffering is no more. Your warfare, it's over. Your iniquity, wiped away. The glory of the Lord is revealed, and all flesh shall see it. God tends to us like a shepherd, holding us in His arms, carrying us to Bethlehem, Bethlehem.